Have you ever thought why some tourists can live in Thailand for years without problems, while others are sometimes evicted just in a day? Did you get lost in the endless rules of visas, permits, forms and laws, or just believe that I am a tourist, I can do everything? And do you know that the cause of deportation can be completely unexpected and is not always connected with something serious, from an overdue visa to an accidental error in the questionnaire on the border? You will learn about all this and much more from our new video, and I'm sure that after watching, many of you will be surprised how fragile the status of any foreigner can be. What is deportation in Thailand and why it is important for every foreigner? Let's start without long entry. Deportation is not just an expulsion from the country. This is a process when you are forcibly sent home, it is to the country whose passport is in your hands. Moreover, we are talking not only about malicious violators of the law, but also about people who, it would seem, did nothing bad. Imagine you like the Thai Sea, you feel almost local, and at some point you are announced that tomorrow you must leave the country, and also with a ban on a long time. In Thailand, there is a clear system that regulates the rules of stay of guests. Why is this fundamentally important for everyone? Because the risks of deportation equally concern foreign travelers with a short trip, employees of international companies, students, as well as those who decided to winter for several months. Thailand, despite her friendliness, strictly monitors this process and connects all possible mechanisms, even international cooperation, if we are talking about serious violations or search. Often people are sure, this is not with me. I'm just resting, neither laws nor the rules threaten me. In practice, everything is different. For example, a well-known story, when foreign musicians were deported in just a few days for violating migration rules, and it doesn't matter what country of Russia, Israel, or Australia were a citizen. Large scandals happen when international legislation intersects with Thai, and then even groups of refugees or participants in high-profile political affairs can deport. Sometimes the occasion is a banal complaint, an administrative error or an outdated recording in the database. It may be so risky and unpredictable to stay in the country simply due to falling under a standard verification mechanism. In the following chapters, we will analyze in detail what the main and unexpected causes of deportation. I will share real examples, personal experience, and, of course, tell you how not only to avoid troubles, but also to calmly enjoy the rest or work under the scorching Thai sun. Stay with us to the end, and you will definitely know how not to be among those who are forced to pack suitcases at the first request of the immigration police. Who is actually under threat? Tourists, workers, expenses, who risks more? Let's start with the most obvious category, tourists. These people arrive on vacation, believing that laws for them are written only in small print on the last page of the questionnaire. However, even for a short vacation, you can accidentally violate an important rule, for example, to expire the stay for just a couple of days or not put the desired mark in the passport on time. Some are sure, well, one day was lost, no one will notice, but in reality the violation is recorded automatically when leaving the country. Even if you think that there can be no problems, the Thai Immigration Service monitors any mismatch of the deadlines and is strict enough so as not to make the indulgences to anyone. A typical situation, the tourist arrived for 2 weeks, carried away by the islands, lingered 3 days longer, and received an administrative fine and a ban on entry for many years on the border. But no less risky is the situation of those who live in Thailand for a long time, the expanses, the so-called second Thais. Among them are entrepreneurs, digital nomads, employees of foreign companies, freelancers, and even pensioners. All of them risk no less than tourists. If at least once they violate the rules for extending the visa, they will miss a mandatory notification of the place of residence, formality with documents, or accidentally engage in activities that the law considers work. Many do not know, if you officially live on a long-term visa, but did not announce during the change of address, this is already a reason for sanctions. Separately, foreign workers who have arrived under an official contract, volunteers or invited specialists are standing. They should remember, even with perfectly executed documents, the change of the employer or participation in third-party projects without notification is qualified as a violation, and the consequences are very serious, from fines to deportation and a ban on returning for a long time. It is also interesting that among the subject deportations, people with a complex fate may also be, for example, stateless persons and refugees. For them, the situation is much more dangerous. Sometimes even a small mistake in the papers or a formal complaint leads to the fact that a person is sent without particularly understanding where to return him. The story with foreign musicians detained in Thailand, where the vast majority were citizens of several states: Australia, Israel, Russia, and this did not save them from a tightly verification by the migration service. The reason was a formal misconduct, a performance without the right license. The main conclusion is that everyone who at least once violates local laws or rules, even by negligence or because of ignorance, can be under the threat of deportation in Thailand. Regardless of the country of origin, the target visa and life experience, you cannot consider yourself outside the risk zone. The most important thing, in a timely manner find out changes in the legislation, specify the nuances specifically for your status, and do not think that other people's stories are always about someone else. In the next chapter, we will talk about the most common and ordinary reason for deportation. This is a situation that literally everyone who is visiting the country can get into the country than planned initially. The main threat is number 1, violation of the visa regime and overborne. What is the generally overwhelming? This is a delay in a visa or permitted stay. In each airport, at the railway station, at any official border point, there is an electronic base, which indicates how many days it is allowed to be in the country. Violation of this period is perceived seriously. Even if you forgot to extend the visa for only a day, an official fine is charged from you. For example, for each day of delay, regardless of the cause, whether it is a disease, confusion in tickets or a banal inattention, you need to pay a fixed amount in local currency. But most importantly, the violation is fixed, and if you linger for more than 3 months, you will receive a ban on entering Thailand and entering a special immigration list. In practice, a visa delay happens to everyone for tourists and expanses, and those who came on business. Someone was carried away by excursions, someone confused the dates due to the time difference, and someone just decided to live a little by the ocean. Every week, the airports are the queues of people who agree to pay for the fine. Often everything ends with a warning and a monetary penalty, especially if the violation for the first time. However, if this is repeated or the delay period is long, the consequences become more serious. It is important to know, the longer you violate the stay, the more fierce the measure. We stayed for more than 3 months, prepare for the fact that it will only be obtained in Thailand in a year. Overlines for a year, 3 years of prohibition on entry. For more than 3 years, this is already 5 years outside the opportunity to see your favorite beaches, dishes, and sunsets. If you are detained when checking documents in the country, and the deadline is excessed slightly, you will get off with a fine. If the police were detained for something else, and on top they also found overcomes, they can add a long restriction on the return to deportation. It is especially sad when such stories occur with families. The adult did not watch, the child spent extra day in the country, and everything ends with a long separation from Thailand. By the way, the fine is not charged for children under the age of 14, but you can still get a mark in unpleasant proceedings. Unfortunately, many continue to believe, "I do not concern me, everything is under control," but the system works against human memory. When you leave, always check the dates twice. Check what marks are placed in the passport at the entrance, because sometimes even the border guard can be mistaken by the wrong date. Do not forget that the extension of a visa and tourist stay must be done in advance, and not on the last day. In the next chapter, I will tell you in detail exactly how the system of accounting for foreigners in Thailand is arranged, how ordinary control differs from enhanced tracking, and why technological approaches can play an angry joke with you if you decide to stay incognito a little longer than it should be. How the system of accounting and control of foreigners in Thailand works. Everyone who arrives or comes to Thailand must pass border control. Recently, automated immigration gates have been operating in the capital's airports, for example, in Suvarnabhumi. They not only check your passport and visa, but also scan fingerprints, take pictures of the face, and in the future they also check the unique QR code, which stores all the basic information about the traveler. Such a system was originally available only for local residents, but is gradually opening for tourists from different countries. For example, citizens of Singapore can already use automatic corridors, and soon other categories of foreign guests will join them. The system fixes absolutely everything: the date of arrival, the reason for the visit, the hotel or the address of residence, the departure date, and even, perhaps, your previous trips to other countries of the region. All this information instantly falls into the overall database, which combines the airport services, the immigration police and even some state departments. Every year, this electronic network becomes more difficult. They introduced the digital immigration control system, where any guest of the country receives its electronic passport, a unique identifier or the same QR code, according to which hotels, housing tenants, and sometimes even banks and hospitals can quickly check the legality of your stay. A special place is occupied by the famous TM30 form. This is the obligatory reporting that the owner of the apartment, the hotel, or just the one who rents housing to the foreigner is obliged. As soon as you settled, your lessor or owner must submit an electronic or paper report within a day, which is now the person from another country is now sleeping at such an address. Even if you live with friends, they must fill this form. An error or forgetfulness and fines are already possible for both the landlord and the guest. The hotels have a simplified procedure and record the default guests, but if they dragged on or tried to get around the rule, the system quickly gives out inconsistencies. Why is Thailand all this? The official version is to ensure maximum security of the country and, of course, economic accounting. This allows you to quickly track people who violate the law, and prevent criminals calmly hide behind other people's passports. But in practice, most foreign guests are faced with these checks precisely in household issues, rental, buying and selling real estate, receiving medical services, even when trying to connect the internet. Do not be surprised if you are asked to update registration or retake biometric data several times in a row. The database should always be relevant. The prepared electronic permission to travel deserves special attention. This is an analog of the familiar questionnaire, which used to be filled on paper when entering the country, only now everything is done in advance, via the internet or a special application. Here, not only passport and visa data are indicated, but also the reasons for the trip, details of residence and the deadlines. It changes easily, it is quickly updated. In the future, imagine such a scenario: come show only one QR code from the phone and the system knows everything you need about you. The main thing is, even if you try to be as invisible as possible, the control system can highlight you, regardless of whether you used the services of an official hotel or decided to stop at private traders. And if your landlord or apartment's manager did not submit a report on time, troubles most often arise precisely from the guest. Therefore, the advice: always specify whether you are registered in the form of TM30, and do not be afraid to double-check the status of your visa before leaving. In the next chapter, we will analyze why attempts to fulfill even a simple part-time job, blogging, or organize an event in Thailand can turn into unpleasant consequences, and what is considered a violation of labor activity even at first glance in harmless cases. The second common foundation: illegal work and labor activity without permission. The first thing a foreigner should know: any occupation, paid or even free work, if it is an activity that local laws equate to work, requires a work visa and a special permit, the so-called VIL permit. Even if you already have a business visa, this does not give the right to engage in commerce or earn. We need official registration of labor relations or a registered company. To get such a visa and permission, it is necessary that the local company take you to the state, or you yourself become the founder of the Thai legal entity. Without these steps, any participation in business, part-time work, lectures, master classes, even shooting advertising is a crime. The authorities pay great attention to checks. If you are caught in illegal activity, the consequences are very stringent: first administrative arrest, then a fine. It can reach the amount of 50,000 baht, this is about $1,350 American, and then forced deportation with a blacklist for several years. There is even a separate list of prohibited professions. For example, despite popularity among foreigners, the work of a cook or a hairdresser in Thai institutions is prohibited at any level, and there is a strict ban, both physical and intellectual work, in certain areas. In order not to risk getting into a similar situation, it is very important to study the laws and procedures in advance, which are constantly updated. For example, since spring 2025 years in Thailand, a new rule has been operating in Thailand. To obtain a work permit, you need to fill out an electronic migration card no later than 72 hours before entering the country, get an electronic QR code and confirm your data on the border. Practice shows that many freelancers, bloggers, artists, teachers of foreign languages, and even volunteers fall under the same category. If you use your activities to earn or public promotion of yourself, be prepared for verification. Even if you teach English free of charge or participate in charitable actions, it is formally interpreted as labor activity and requires permission. A particularly strict approach to people involved in mass events, cultural festivals, and public performances. The situation is also influenced by where you came from. More and more foreigners from different countries, whether Germany, Great Britain, Canada or other regions, face the same rules, regardless of citizenship or visa status. Violation of the law in terms of labor leads to immediate sanctions. The most important thing is that the presence of even one fact of illegal work deprives you of the right to enter Thailand for a long time. Therefore, if there is a desire to work or hold a masterclass, organize a meeting or online event, it is better to consult a lawyer in advance and arrange all the necessary papers. In the next chapter, I'll tell you in detail about how local law enforcement officers include order violators, and why even a small administrative violation can turn into big problems for any foreigner. Hard measures for violators of order, crimes and misconduct, from theft to accident. Let's start with simple administrative disorders. For example, if you crossed the road in the wrong place or did not give way at a pedestrian crossing, already a reason for a fine. Starting this year, fines have increased for such misconduct. A fine for travel to the red light is about 4,000 baht, a similar punishment for speeding. For the lack of a seatbelt, 2,000 baht, and if you did not put on a helmet on a bike, 2,000 baht again. In tourist areas such as Phuket, Samui, Chiang Mai, control is especially strict control. Police officers can stop transport, check the documents, and if you have any of them, the punishment will follow immediately. But even smaller misconduct has consequences. For example, if you celebrate your birthday too loudly or have come into a conflict on the street, this can easily end with a call. In Thailand, it is undesirable to just behave defiantly. Seriously relate to cases of fraud, hooliganism, gross violations of public peace, and especially drunk driving, even after one cocktail. Any detention or administrative business is formally formalized, and information about it falls into the overall database available for border control services. And if you decide to leave the country voluntarily after such an misconduct, there is a risk of getting back anymore. A minor offense may become a formal basis for a temporary or constant ban on entry, up to automatic deportation in especially critical cases. Criminal disorders, of course, lead to even more stringent consequences. The list of crimes that are considered especially strictly includes theft, any forms of fraud, attacks, intentional harm to health, significant damage to property or transport incidents with the victims. The situations are especially dangerous with an attempt to escape from the place of violation, by non-appeal to the investigator or non-payment of a fine. In general, the attitude to repeated violators and recidivists is extremely harsh. If a foreigner is caught again for a minor offense, the punishment is tightened. You can get a deportation with a ban on entry from 3 to 5 years without the right to appeal. If we are talking about a serious crime or a major incident, sanctions include not only expulsion, but also entering all the data to the so-called immigration blacklist, where all the facts of violations in other countries of the region will be stored. Drivers deserve special attention. Driving without international rights is qualified as a serious offense. They can be fined, and in some cases even confiscated the vehicle. They did not pay the fine on time, the ban on departure from the country until the debt is resolved. They were detained for dangerous or drunken driving. In addition to deportation, a long-term ban on entry and refusal to visas in future years is likely. In Thailand, the rules are simple. If you find yourself in an unpleasant story, do not try to solve it unofficially or ignore the regulations of the police. Even the most insignificant administrative case can cause deportation and a serious spoiled reputation in visa and migration bases. The next chapter is devoted to the exclusive category of offenses, crimes against the royal family, which not all travelers know about, but for which maximum sanctions are possible, up to immediate expulsion. Special grounds, crimes against the royal family, lèse majesté.